Why does it matter whether or not we believe we are lucky?
I think if you don't believe that you're lucky, then you're not going to do the fundamental things that are kind of required to make luck thrive in your life, right? So I think it kind of like thinking that you're lucky in a sense just means that you're kind of in this space where you're like, hey, I can attract things to me. I can make things happen. It's already here for me. I just need to turn it on. And I think when you start to feel that way, you start to do the formula really that's going to help you to attract more luck into your life and help you thrive. We talk a lot about the study. Richard Wiseman, he did a 10-year groundbreaking study on the science of luck, and he found that basically, the more luckier people were, they were more open-minded to new experiences, and they had broader social networks. So essentially, people were in this space where they were just had a great mindset. They were out there. They were meeting people. They were open to experiences, and those types of things started to happen in their life. But the formula, it's an important one, and it's an important one that you kind of rinse and repeat. And I think it starts with thinking that you can achieve it. You can make it happen. It's not just something that happens to you. It's something you create.
I like the phrase that you use, it's already there for me. That's something you'll hear in manifestation, something you'll even hear in prayer. The
Sure.
idea that it's already there for me basically implies it doesn't have to be that hard.
Right.
And that is something most people don't walk around with.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's funny. I heard that on a podcast recently, and it was actually the woman that heard it from a rabbi that was talking about how it's not about manifesting and attracting things to you, but it's about recognizing it's already here, almost like a radio, how it has music, but you don't hear it until you turn it on.
I love
And
that.
for me, that was like it was a really powerful metaphor because when knowing it's already there almost takes a little bit of weight off to some
And I
extent.
like the concept of the radio because you can play with that, right? You can say, number one, the radio is already there. You can walk
Yeah.
by it as if it was a piece of furniture, or you could just forget to plug it in. Number two, you could turn it on and then be angry that it's not your song yet. Or you could just
Exactly.
dance and say, at some point, Dua Lipa's coming. What if we are all super lucky and just fail to notice the opportunities around us all day, every single day? What if luck is really just opportunity and it is your own mindset that's been blinding you to how lucky you were meant to be? What if it doesn't have to be so hard? My guest this week is Nicole Perrone, SVP of Mortgage Banking, better known as the Billion Dollar Banker, whose keynote entitled The Science of Luck is just the new take on life that many of you probably need to hear today. I know I did, and despite any evidence to the contrary, I've always considered myself to be the luckiest girl in the world. Okay, let's take a step back. So before we dive in and start swimming around in the world of luck, I'm going to take a
Yeah,
step back and introduce you to my audience more in terms of your life than
sure.
your resume. So tell me your story. Why do they
Yeah.
call you the billion dollar banker?
Yeah. Well, so I labeled myself, which is something everybody should do, right? When they're thinking about branding. But that's how the Billion Dollar Banker name came about. But my story, it's not all that exciting. Grew up between a split home. My mom and my dad divorced when I was younger. My dad lived in the city. My mom lived in New Jersey. And one of the things I think that's just fundamental in my growing up was just belief. My parents instilled a lot of belief in me, in myself. And so I've always had that. But interestingly enough, at times they've tried to redirect me to take the safer way or the more certain path. So maybe they instilled a little too much in me, but my dad was in construction. My mom was in real estate. Today I'm in finance and real estate, and I also own a construction company. So really interesting how that happened. I'm just big on mindset. I've been in sales and marketing my whole career. I think everything's limitless, and I want other people to feel the same way. When I was asked to do a keynote speech and I was thinking about what would be a great topic, I started to think about a topic that I thought would be universal.
Well, and it's interesting because you mentioned you give the keynote and it's entitled The Science of Luck. But I wanted to kind of look back into, people aren't born with any belief system, right? Life knocks you around. There's like a moment in your life where you figure out there is some sort of a balance going on between effort and luck because there are other people who are working just as hard who are not getting the blessing, right?
Absolutely.
Um,
Yeah.
and so to begin with, Can you tell me what your relationship is with the idea of luck and maybe how it changed over time?
Yeah, I remember when I first got into the mortgage industry. I was in my early 20s at the time, and I had a mentor, and he was like, look, you do these things, you follow this step, this map, and you're going to do great. And I remember I met this woman, and she gave me a book called The Secret. And really, ever since then, and even probably a little bit before then, I was always big on like writing down the things I wanted in my life. My mentor at the time gave me the roadmap. He said, this is what you need to do. I had to learn how to meet people and then follow up and have great conversations and turn it into business opportunities. I had to prepare and be good at what I did. I had to find the opportunity, and then I had to take action. And really, that's the formula for luck. So many people kind of miss that signal that it's time to take action there. Maybe because they're not paying attention. We use an example about two people that walk into a coffee shop, one person that's like sitting scrolling on their phone, just looking down, really not interested or aware of what's going on around them. And then somebody else that's very open, looking around, having conversations, smiling. And the person that started a conversation ends up leaving with a job, leaving with an opportunity based on the person that you spoke with. And so it could be as simple as that, as simple as being open-minded to your surroundings and aware that everybody around you could be someone to help you get to where you're looking to go next, or could be someone that you were supposed to meet. So you got to start with that mindset that you deserve luck in your life.
You said in your keynote, if you're not expecting it, you might not see it. And that was a statement that resonated to me because in the last maybe 5, 6 years, a lot of people have said to me, they can't believe how happy I am. But I
Mm-hmm.
don't credit myself for it. It resonates with me because you say, if you're not expecting it, you might not see it. And I have always considered myself the luckiest girl in the world.
Hmm.
And that comes from a place of feeling blessed because that's how my parents walk through the world, right? They're immigrants, they worked super hard. And I keep seeing everybody tumble and get back up when I'm growing up. And so the story in my head becomes, God, how lucky are we to be in this game? Which is a very privileged way to be able to look at things, right? Even the way you talk about your parents' divorce, there's a story you're telling yourself in your head. And it sounds to me from just even the way you carry yourself that maybe that was the story you told yourself all along. You look at a situation like being from a split home growing up. I don't say broken because there's no such thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and you focus on the good of what you got from both. I think that is a predisposition, and I don't think it's genetic. I think it's learned.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like it comes down to this is a long-winded way of saying your statement was if you're not expecting it, you might not see it. It's a
Right.
long-winded way of saying that I think there's something really powerful about our chosen pattern recognition. You can look
Mm-hmm.
at the 5 times you asked somebody out in high school and the 4 times somebody said no and the 1 time somebody said yes and say, I'm so lucky because the right one said yes. Or you can say, oh my God, nobody likes me. I must be ugly, right?
Yeah.
So there's
Yeah.
a choice in the pattern recognition that you set up in your brain. My question for you in the context of all of that, the question is, do you believe that feeling lucky is really just the expectation of good things, which then becomes self fulfilling?
In many ways, yeah, I think yes, it's got to start there. I don't think you're going to have the discipline or the desire, to get through all the things you have to get through in life to be in that position. Like people that are single, that are, newly divorced and have to go start all over again. They have to believe first, like I can start this again. I can redo this. This is going to be different. This is going to be exactly what I want. But if they're coming from this place where like I don't know what it's going to be, it's never going to be what it was, everything's failed, it's not the same. Like how can you come from a place of passion and purpose and creativity and like innovation in your life if you have this kind of negative perspective of what you can create, right? So I know some days it's hard that self-doubt will creep in and things will happen, but ultimately it doesn't serve you to think, even if yeah, it's going to look, your new blueprint's going to look like crap. Maybe it's not going to look as good. Why would you, even if that was, why would you think that way? Because you're going to need to get there, to your point about the guy that asked the girl out 5 times and 4 times it's no. Well, that's going to happen with this formula. You're going to prepare. You're going to put yourself in places where opportunity comes. right? You're prepared to ask the girl out. You're dressed nice. You're going somewhere. You go to the club or the bar or the event. You meet her. You take action. You take bold action and you get rejected, right? And then it's like the only way you're going to get back up and do that again is, to your point before, is if you have that mindset, like, hey, well, you know what? I'm one step closer to the person that's going to say yes. It's like Mark Cuban always says this. He's like, you only need to be right one time, just one time. You could be wrong hundreds of times, right? But you just need to be right one time. Like that one guest on your podcast that brings it to 1 million, subscribers.
That's
one.
you. That's you. We didn't establish.
Maybe it's this right here. I brought the luck. But no, do you like it takes the weight off a little bit, right? When you say you just need to be right once.
And that's what it goes back to the pattern recognition, right? I go out and I tell myself, 95% of women are going to say no if you ask them out. 95% of women are not going to like you. So if I go out to a bar, my job is to hit on 98 women, right? And every no is getting me closer to the yes, because the odds are getting closer to my favor. The more no's I get, the closer I am to the yes, because those are just the probabilities.
And I know as we start over in life and as we get older, it gets harder. But you know what? There's all these objections. There's all these spaces where it's hard. I tell people this all the time. It doesn't matter if you're 60, if you're 40, if you're 30, right? You could be 60 and say, I'm old, You could be 40 and say, I have young kids, You could be in your 20s and, no, everybody just wants to mess around. There's always something that you can point your finger at and say, this is the reason why it's not going to happen to me. Right. But why? If you can look at things in your life in a way where you're like, hey, I can create anything. I'm going to make myself think about things as positively as I can. I only have to be right one time. And so what kind of luck do I want to attract in my life? Is it that new job? Is it that business success? Is it that new partner? Is it love? Is it spirituality? What do I want to attract? And then start thinking about, how can I take the steps to get there? And am I going to really do the work that it takes to prepare for it, right?
The thing is, your energy, and look, I'm in the real estate industry as well, right? The energy in the real estate industry is, what are the steps? How can we get this project done, right? But it makes what you call luck sound a lot more like opportunity to the layperson, right? Because what you're saying is you got to be prepared. Then you have to be open. And then you're saying the opportunity shows up and you have to take action. But the key piece in that is not in your control is the opportunity, right? And only positive energy welcomes an opportunity. So to me, it sounds like what you're saying is that luck, as in opportunity, luck is available to everyone, but that many people are blinding themselves to how many chance opportunities are available to them every day.
Right.
Do you think people blind themselves because they fear trying and failing, or they just shut out chances to reach kind of for the brass ring because they don't think they deserve it?
I think that's a great question. I think you nailed it on both sides. I think people feel both of those things. I think people feel they're scared of what if it does happen?
Well, then we'll all be happy. Then
what if this is the most perfect person for me and I fall in love? That's scary, right? That like, what if I succeed, right? The fear of success, the fear of failure, the fear of rejection, the fear of not being enough, right? Yeah, those all go like way deeper, right? Than just the prep, opportunity, and action part. You could be at that place with that person and have that opportunity, but then because you don't think you deserve it, or because maybe you don't think it's going to happen for you, you don't take action. And that's, by the way, in sales and in business, that's a huge thing. It's like a lot of sales, like they say 90% of salespeople will follow up one time and then that's it. You have to follow up 5 to 12 times. People get busy. People, have things going on. I don't know how many times we messaged before I, showed up here on the podcast, but if I messaged you once and you didn't respond, I would have messaged you again, right? So you have to have that framework like you were talking about before. Have you ever read the book called The Four Agreements?
I've heard of it, but I never read it. It's
crazy because it literally applies to everything. Do your best. Don't take anything personal. Don't make assumptions, and be impeccable with your word. And if you think about those 4 things, like they show up so much in the area of working towards anything in your life, right? Am I taking something personal, right? That you didn't respond. Am I taking that personally? Or am I making an assumption because you left me unread, you read it, you didn't say anything. I'm making an assumption that you're not interested, right?
Right. Right.
And then maybe I go talk to someone about it. I don't think this topic's really that great. No, no one's responding to me. Now I'm not being impeccable with my word. Now I'm going out there, like you said before, and I'm having conversations about how this isn't good, right? I'm like reinforcing it, right? And so, in always doing your best, you would eliminate all of those things you wouldn't think about anything from taking it personal, even if it's failure, rejection. You're not going to take it personal. Failure is just a part of the game. I mean, I know people that have achieved so much success in real estate, and it doesn't matter how successful they are, they all lose clients. Failure is just a part of the equation.
Well, and I think it goes back to just the story that you tell yourself, right? Because the 4 agreements, it's a template for life. It's not just for luck, but I really like that. What I liked about your take on luck is that it's very practical. Like you said, it's not woo woo. And most people I know are not really down with the woo woo. I mean, they may be doing mushrooms on the weekends, but they're not really down with the woo woo. They tell themselves they're not down with the woo woo.
You could be the most talented person or the most beautiful person or the most, spiritually open person. But like, if you're not doing anything to like get that out there, if you're not getting in that space where you're allowing opportunity in, like you're wasting your talent if you're not getting out there and showing people who you are, right? Like this topic could have died, 200 people ago, right? When I did the keynote, but now hopefully thousands of people hear it. And I only have to help one person, right? It's the same thing. Like you only have to be right one time. But I do think that you can help train my mindset. I've gone to Tony Robbins. I did Pathways seminars, which is not very, very renowned, but I was absolutely phenomenal. But just these, you have to put yourself in these environments where you're really not comfortable, right? I remember walking out through Tony Robbins, like with 5,000 people chanting yes over and over again. Yes, 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 because we were going to go walk on 12 feet of hot coal barefoot. And I at this moment, I was like 25 and I'm like, what am I doing right? This is the weirdest shit I've ever done in my life. Like I'm in a parking lot. Yeah, I'm in a parking lot with all these random people. I'm about to walk on, but he was priming our minds to believe that we could do it, right? And I bet if he did that experimental, the opposite way, like you're gonna get burned, you're gonna get burned, like people would be burning, right? But we all just walked across this thing. Famously, you saw Oprah do it,
right?
And it was the most powerful way to put exactly what we're talking about right now into perspective. If you think you can, right?
Yeah. Well, let's do the opposite.
Apply all that strategy to it after.
But let's do the opposite. When have you felt the most unlucky?
When you have a bad attitude, right? Like you just think about it the other day. Like it's funny. I actually thought about this because we were at the airport, and like sometimes I feel like everybody at the airport is just nasty. Like they have
it's so gross. I don't ever want to fly again.
Yeah,
it's
but
so gross.
Now I'm wondering, like, is it me? Like, what if I had like not the best attitude walking in? Like maybe I could give them some. Maybe I'm just getting kind of what I'm giving off, but I don't know. Maybe this doesn't apply to Newark Airport because they're the most unhappy. We need to go in and give them like a mindset seminar.
They're Newark not okay. Nobody at Newark Airport is okay right now.
But you think about like bad luck, right? Like I think about whenever I have those experiences, I don't take it personal. Back to before, right? Like if I walk up to them, hey, how are you? And they don't say anything, they just like check my ID, they don't say a word. I'm acknowledging like that's pretty rude, but I know that's not about me. But ultimately, like as I'm looking back at it now, I'm like, well, maybe I'm creating that environment in my life. Maybe there's a part of me, like how many of us are stressed when we go to, travel? We're like, come on, you're getting the kids, they got to pick up their stuff, the suitcase is falling over. We're already in this shitty mindset. So all this crap's coming towards us, all these other bad attitudes, because they're vibing off our energy. And maybe that's where we are. Like, get me through here, get me through this line.
You're going back to like the core answer to adulthood, which is keep reminding yourself it's not personal. And I think the task at this phase in life is to shorten the gap between the experience and the genuine recognition that wasn't personal. No, maybe depends on the day. Maybe if it's an obnoxious TSA agent where you're like, excuse me, should I go this way or that way? And they go, ma'am. And you're like, oh my God, with the ma'am. take it down a notch. But instead, you're like, I mean, do you think she likes that job? You think she likes standing on her feet for the last 6 hours? You think maybe her husband was a jerk this morning? Maybe I don't know, right? Maybe
God
whatever.
bless. Yeah, God bless.
So
And
we can shorten that
maybe they're
gap.
just, yeah, maybe it's just inherently like a place that doesn't breed positivity. But I think like, yeah, I think you can create bad luck in your life. Like I think about the analogy when you're racing to work and you're like, oh my gosh, I keep catching every light and everywhere I turn there's traffic. It just seems like there's more and more of it, right? Like you're calling it to you.
Mm.
It's you have to have the mindset like if you get lost, like I'm the type of person now, I get lost. I'm like, must have been for a reason, must have been, I must have taken the wrong turn because I wasn't supposed to be on that street. I was supposed to be on this one. I don't know why. I'm going to be 30 minutes late right now for like a second. I'm going to let it piss me off. And then I'm just going to like, let it go and recognize like this was how it was supposed to go. And I'm just going to think about every circumstance in my life in the best way that I can think about it. I think you need that mindset because I always use this example when I give the analogy of like the framework, the formula to luck, right? So I'm a mortgage executive. I've been in the industry for over 20 years. I used to run the number one team for one of the biggest national lenders in the country out of Manhattan. And so I've had great success kind of thinking that way in my mind, coming up one of the youngest women to run a team, one of the only women to run a team in Manhattan. And so a lot of great accomplishments. But I remember when I was preparing in the beginning, I wanted to become a leader. I wanted to be a manager. And I was preparing for that. I was reading books and I was doing seminars. I was trying to get into that space. The opportunity came and that the job posting was there and I went for it. And I was so excited. And I was like, I'm going for it. I'm going to do it. I'm ready for the interview. I prepared for the interviews and then I take action and I apply, right? Because I could have stopped and said, okay, I'm prepared, the opportunity's here, but I'm young, but I'm a woman, but there's someone better than me, whatever it is, whatever story I want to tell myself. But I said, I'm just going to do it. I took action and I didn't get the job the first time. I didn't get it. And so ultimately, like there's going to be people in life at times that are more prepared than you are, right? And you just have to kind of take that perspective and say, okay, well, what could I have done better? Or how can I be better prepared the next time this opportunity comes about in my life? And so the next time it did come about, and I did ask for that feedback, and the next time it did come about, I took the opportunity and again, like ended up running the number one team in the country before I left that company, had incredible amounts of success. And I remember thinking when I was younger, like, man, I want to run a team in Manhattan. I want to be in the city. We did $2 billion in funded business in 2021. When I was there, I had 53 people reporting to me. It was phenomenal. It was a big achievement from the 25-year-old that started with the company, dreaming about that being the case. And so that was just one example for me of like rejection or, missing the mark or failing. I only needed to get it right one time. And so I tried again. And so I just encourage people to do that because there could be something so amazing waiting at the end there.
As you're speaking, I'm thinking it's the difference between seeing the rejection as a detour or an adventure, right? But how do you get that into people's brains, right?
Right.
I think it either comes from genuinely not being able to let go of the goal that you have, because then you are going to tell yourself this has to be a detour. They got it
Mm-hmm.
wrong. I'm supposed to have this thing. It has to be a detour, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or it has to be an adventure that I'm forced to have on the way, but I'm still headed where I'm headed.
Mm-hmm.
Or it would have to come from just an abundance of belief that positive circumstances are always available to you, which is what
Yeah.
you're defining as luck.
Well, yeah, exactly. Well, I think how do people get there, right? It's like I think maybe some people maybe a little bit more predisposition to believe this way than others, but I think life gets to you. I think we've all had like rejection, we've all had disappointment, we've all had people that are not nice in our lives, that have hurt our feelings, that have made us feel like we're not good enough, or made us feel like, we're not worthy of something. And I think that it takes real work to change that mindset and to not let those things creep in. I always tell people this story about how people will say that to me, like, oh, you're so natural. It's just so like perfect for you. Well, it really wasn't natural for me at first. I mean, I'm an outgoing person. Don't get me wrong. I'm confident. I'm outgoing, but that doesn't mean I'm comfortable with like all these lights and cameras and putting every video up of like there's videos I hate. I can't. I just reposted one on a podcast. I was like, what is going on with my everything? I was like, what am I doing? Like, I did not want to repost it, but I'm like, I have to. I was on the show. I have to repost it. But in the beginning, when I did this, and I talk about this all the time, like I started making these videos. Hopefully one day I'll have this conversation with 10 million followers and, extreme success side by side with our podcast. But ultimately, like I started recording on my phone and I just left the videos there because I wouldn't post them. It took me like 3 to 6 months. But I think ultimately, like nobody saw that part, right? Nobody saw that part where I was like looking at the videos. I wasn't sure about it. I didn't know if I wanted to post it. That was like my preparation period. I would watch podcasts like yours. I would listen to what you're doing and how you're doing it. I would think about what guests I want on. There's some people I've asked like 15 times to be a guest on my show. I'm going to ask them forever.
Yeah.
And so like a great example is like, I would love to have this real estate developer, Grant Cardone, who I've followed for a long time, come on the podcast. And so I'll message him randomly all the time when I'm scrolling. Every time I see something, I'm like, when are you going to come on my show? When are you going to come on my show? And I know he'll appreciate it because he's like that annoying person too.
Yeah.
But maybe one day he'll reply. And then like I just kept doing it. I'm like, one day I'm going to get him on. That's my belief. One day I'm going to get him on. This guy that's got millions of followers. He's almost a billionaire, but I'll get him on one day. And so I actually just hired someone on my team that just so happened to reach out to me. We used to work together at a prior company, called me and he's like, hey, I've been working for Grant Cardone for 2 years, but I'm leaving. I'm looking to do something else. I'm like, that's cool. Like, why don't you, let's talk. Anyway, hired him, came over with me. And so just last week I was like, Andrew, like, when are you going to get Grant on my show? And he was like, you know what? I should try to reach out to so-and-so. I know the assistant. And so, yeah, I'm like, I really want Grant. Like, maybe I'll tag Grant in this little clip here, just to, again, ask him. But anyway, the CEO of his company, the person that runs it all, is going to join the show in July. So it's like, you think about that as like the formula from starting from like making a video, not liking it, preparing, thinking I could do it. Opportunity comes, I hire someone and I take action. I'm like, hey, come on, let's do it. Let's get them on. That's how things are going to happen in life. And then all of a sudden you start to have these moments. You're like, whoa, things are just happening, right? Do you ever have those moments where you're like, shit's just happening now?
Oh, 100%. And I got to say, the way you just described the whole process of going after Grant Cardone is you're illustrating why it is so charming when people believe in the goodness of their own future, right? You have demonstrated that because we know that if he sees this interview, which at some point he will, it is almost too charming to say no to. Because when people are that positive, it goes back to me being 5'0", running around LA, surrounded by girlfriends who are 5'11", getting twice the attention because I am the happiest guy in that group. Right?
Energy.
And so it's charming, right? It's too charming. And everybody has an hour. I think he's going to say yes.
I hope so. I hope you do, Grant, if you're watching. And hopefully you'll share this episode too. But yeah, I think that's how we have to think about everything in life. And for your listeners that are like, this sounds great, but I don't have that belief. I think it starts with things like this, like listening to the right podcasts, reading the right books, drawing boundaries around the relationships that don't serve you in your life, the friends that are always calling you to complain and bullshit about their miserable lives and whatever there's going on and how everything's so bad or the weather, whatever it is. Like, you got to draw boundaries around those people. And it sounds like corny. You've heard this before, but the thing is, we have to keep repeating it because at some point you hear it and it really sinks in, right? Like, I always say, like, dump the dirty water. Like, if this was filled with dirty water, I can't just pour soap in it. There's going to be dirt in it still. Like, dump out that cup, right? Get rid of it and put some clean water back in it and listen to the things that you love. If you love this podcast, listen to it, share it with people, right?
And I mean, basically what you're talking about is it's not just protecting your peace, right? It's sort of recognizing, and this is a phrase I used with someone recently, recognizing that your mental diet is affecting you, right? So I was talking to a friend who got very, very negative, and he had every right to get negative. He's a long-term friend, and he's going through a terrible time, and I get it. But I've had my own carnival of crap in my life as well, just like everybody else. And I know how long I stay in the processing mode. I won't say down, but I know how long I stay in processing. And I know that there's always a day where I'm like, nope, on a rope, like, time to go, right? Like, I cannot sit in that negativity. But I said to my friend, I'm I'm always here to listen to you, but I
Hmm.
need to tell you that, especially maybe as I'm getting older, I want to be gentle with my brain. And so
Mm.
when you talk to me and you tell me something bad has happened that day, I want to hear it. Like, I'm here for it. But if you want to continue to repeat the thing that has happened before again and again and again, and you're using charged language, cursing, angry, violent language, which, look, I mean, you work in real estate. We know how this universe goes. But at a certain point, I'm 47 years old. This is a bubble now. It's like I don't need to laugh off anything. Okay. I don't like
Hmm.
the energy. I don't want it coming at me. If you're going to keep using that, it's affecting my mental diet. He was very annoyed that I was basically like, stop it with the potty mouth. But it's a version of what you're saying because it goes back to being at Newark Airport. Everyone's anger and everyone's pessimism is contagious.
Can we
Similarly,
tag? Can we
their
tag Newark?
optimism. Huh?
Can we tag Newark
Can we
Airport in
please? Yeah.
this?
That is contagious. And even one person in TSA who's smiling and says, "Good morning, darling." Don't you think that's contagious? Don't you think it
Yeah,
changes the energy of everybody there?
100%. I don't
And
know
then
who's driving the plane
similarly,
there.
my question for you is, do you think a lucky mindset is contagious?
Yeah, I do. I think being around people that have, like, I call it like operating at this frequency. And I'm not saying we're all always there, but the second you get around someone that's on this frequency of like positive energy and like no self doubt and just like gratitude, like you said before, and like you said, you feel that energy. Like people see it. Like you could be, the most beautiful or handsome person in the world, but if you have this negative energy coming from you, like
Yeah.
people will get away from that. I'm not saying like swipe it under the rug and just put a happy face on. You have to find the right way to process what you're going through and then to come back. And I think in leadership roles, these are one of the biggest things, right? Like I could get off the phone, have the worst conversation in the world, but when I walk into a room with my team or my family, which again, like this is another space you just constantly need to work on, like you got to put that down. Hey guys, how was school today? What's going on? Right? We do it in parenting all the time, right? We don't bring it to them.
We got to try to teach our kids all this stuff, right? My friend in particular, what I've established with him is, I'm here for you. I am 100% here for you. I'm not going to, we're friends for life. I'm not going anywhere. But I need you to be sensitive to how it's affecting me too. And recently there was something on TV on the news about P. Diddy, and my
Mhm.
son and I are watching it. And he said, "You used to live in LA, right, mommy?" And I said, "Yeah." And offhandedly, stupidly, I said, "Yeah. And I met P. Diddy once." And he goes, "You met P. Diddy?" Like he's horrified, right? Because he's just seeing all this stuff.
Where did you meet him?
So I said, "Yeah, I did meet him once. And I'll tell you something, baby. You don't know the extent of what you think you know about what's going on in the news with P. Diddy because you're 10.
Mhm.
Um, but I will tell you this, I met him once. I was introduced to him, and I did not want to be anywhere near that man.
Really?
I did not. And I
Mhm.
remember distinctly because the energy was, I've met so many rich, famous, billionaire, everything, I've been in all the rooms that
Right.
I wouldn't have expected to be in. And I distinctly remember meeting him and just thinking, I don't want to be anywhere near that man. There were certain
Mhm.
parties in LA you would go to. There were certain people who would ask you out. There were certain situations where I would just be like, I don't want to be anywhere near this situation. And
Mhm.
I didn't need to go through to the conclusion of,
Mhm.
because I think they're gonna hold me down and force me to do cocaine, or because I think whatever. It
Right.
wasn't that important. It's just
Their
as simple
energy.
as there's nothing good coming at me
Yeah.
from this
You
person right
gotta try, and you have to trust that too. You really do, because I think people, you look back on times where you like ignored that feeling.
now.
It always
It
it is
costs
always
you.
like true, right? You need to trust that energy, what you feel from people, and more I realize that as time goes on, you have to trust that. And
And when you look back
yeah.
over the course of your life, you'll have situations that go the other way too,
Mhm.
right? You can talk about luck and you talk about opportunity and talk about being in the right rooms and being prepared, but I am sure you, like me, have moments where you can say to yourself, man, I didn't ask. I was in the
Mhm.
room. How many
Mhm.
people got in that room? I got in that
Mhm.
room. Why the hell didn't I make the ask? You know now in your 40
Mhm.
something lens that they
Mhm.
probably would have said yes. And you're like, mm. So
Right.
that belief in, it's almost like if you can go back and identify a handful of times where your belief in your own instinct saved you from things, then you can
Yeah.
probably also go back and identify a handful of times where your lack of belief that the magic was there for you prevented you from things.
Yeah.
And so it's the argument for always just believing it's there for you. The radio is right there. You need to just turn it on.
Turn it on. Yeah, I got to send you this podcast because I think you'll really like it. And I know you wrote a couple books yourself, but the woman that did this podcast, she wrote a book too, and I want to listen to mindset. I want to go. I mean, Mel Robbins just wrote the book Let Them,
Let them,
and she's
yeah.
all over the place talking about it. And and I hear you saying like you're an empath to some extent. We all are to some extent in our lives and what we take in. And sometimes, if there's negativity around you, even if you're trying to be there for someone, those moments are real when you have to say like, hey, I need you to, I like how you said, I need you to be aware of like what's going on for me too. Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's funny because my mom is one of those people that she just the most amazing woman in the world, but she's stuck in this cycle where she
Or
just
loop.
will replay things over and over. And it's just a shame. You just wish you could shake people out of that. But so I've gone through those conversations too, where I'm like, hey, look, I love you. I want you to feel like I'm here for you, but like I can't listen to this right now. I just
Yeah.
can't hear you do this today.
Yeah.
And I need you to start to think about like what life could look like, not like what it's been looking like over and over again. You kind of have to like get past that at some point, you have to find a way to get past it.
Well, pro tip that I developed recently, because we are deep into middle age and a lot of people are going through a lot of things and you're not going to let go of the people you love. Pro tip I realized recently was if you have some friend who's going through something really rough, call them during the moments in your day where you had something else to do as well. So like when I need to I need to be folding laundry, or when
Uh-huh.
I need to be prepping dinner, that's when you're going to get the call from me and you're going to be on speaker and I'm going to let you let it rip
Yeah.
because it's not going to
Yeah.
get in as deeply. But
Yeah.
the last question I want to ask you, especially in the context of nobody's life is a cakewalk, and you're saying that your mom herself gets stuck in a loop, but you are a person who believes so much in their own luck that you give a keynote on the science of luck. Where did you come from?
Yeah. 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 I know. My mom came to the keynote, and she was like, I think this was for me. I think this was for me.
Oh,
Yeah, it was a cool moment. I'm like, man, I don't know if I if there's one person I'd love to change the fate of luck, it's for her. But I think your parents a lot of times instill in you what they wish they could magically instill in themselves. And I think that um, through time, and I think about my mom in this context, like if you looked at her when she was like a 20-year-old girl, she was like stubborn, like kind of strong-minded, tough. She had this belief in herself to, where she was a few years ago, almost out of a relationship. And I had to like pep talk her to go for a job interview in the city. She was so nervous about traveling. She grew up on the subways in Manhattan. She met my father on the subway in Wall Street. That's how they met. Like talk about opportunity, like seeing opportunity. He was like, oh my gosh. He saw, kept seeing her, kept seeing her, kept seeing her, and eventually he took action. I mean, I'm a product of that
and had
formula.
he not, there would be no you.
There would be no way. So I'm a product of the luck formula now that I think about it. I think it's a lot easier to like give that to your kids and just be like, you know what, I didn't happen for me. I'm going to make it happen for them. I do give my parents a lot of credit in believing in me, my mom and my dad. But I think we all hit this road, and you said it before. That only takes you so far, right? And then you have to do the work, right? And so, what work are you doing? Is what I would ask people. What are you listening to? What are you taking in? And how could you make that change in your life today? We end the keynote by asking people like, hey, what's one thing that you need to really take action on in your life that you've been delaying? What's one opportunity you need to take? What's that phone call you have to make, or that person you need to see, or that conversation you need to have? And then to think about like if you do those things, like how could that change your life?
I love it. Because in the reverse, basically what you're saying is if you don't take action on that thing you know you've been wanting to do, you are effectively closing the door on your own luck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a short ride, ladies and gentlemen. So why close any doors? I heard this great saying the other day too. Is like if something about how like the right door doesn't open till you're thrown out of the wrong room or something like that. I
I
don't
like that. I thought you were going to say it's run out of the wrong window because that's what life feels like
know.
sometimes.
Yeah,
Okay, let's say wrong room, not window
wrong room, window, whatever.
for some of
But it's
us.
okay if you were in the wrong room before. It doesn't mean that you're going to open the next door and it's going to be another wrong room. You know, you
Yeah.
have to believe in what that next door opens and just know it's just got to be one room that's the right one. You could walk into a bunch of wrong ones. Just get out of there quick and keep opening new doors, and great things will happen.
What if we are all much luckier than we think? Or what if, conversely, we've been shutting our eyes to the opportunities that are in front of us every minute of every single day? My guest today is Nicole Perrone, a senior VP and mortgage banker who is best known as the billion dollar banker. My guest today is Nicole Perrone, SVP of Production and better known as the Billion Dollar Banker. She has done $1 billion in business in mortgage banking, all while honing her mindset. What if we are all super lucky and just fail to notice the opportunities around us all day, every single day? What if luck is really just opportunity and it is your own mindset that's been blinding you to how lucky you were meant to be? What if it doesn't have to be so hard? My guest this week is Nicole Perrone, SVP of Mortgage Banking, better known as the Billion Dollar Banker, whose keynote entitled The Science of Luck is just the new take on life that many of you may is just the new take on life that many of you probably need to hear today. I know I did, and despite any evidence to the contrary, I've always considered myself to be the luckiest girl in the world.